People greeted him as the twins.
"How are the twins?"
a shopkeeper might ask the one who entered his store.
"We are fine,"
the single twin would reply, perfectly comfortable to be both himself and his brother. They were already old when I was born, and for as long as I remember, I had thought they were living pieces of history, like the smoky, bug-specked photographs of Civil War soldiers lining the halls in the Westmoreland County Courthouse. Everything about the twins aged in a singular way, so that they stood out among other men as if they were an idiosyncratic variation within a breed, like cats with extra toes, or albino birds with see-through feathers. The twins' waxy white hair was horsetail thick and glazed with the dirty gold color of old teeth and tobacco, and their thin, nearly transparent skin looked like milk spilled over a road map of blue and red veins. They were pharmacists, and I've never seen hands as clean as theirs, which they hygienically scrubbed to a ruddy glow at the beginning and end of each workday with a strong boar's hair nail brush dipped in a shallow dish of coarse salt. When I asked if it hurt to scrub his hands, Ab, or it could have been Dolph, replied as if his words were a medical college oath he had pledged to uphold.
"Good health is built on the foundation of a sanitary science."
He held his hands erect before him, as if he were drying two white-hot flames. Nothing they did ever seemed accidental or whimsical, and pain or difficulty never stopped them from being thorough. You could always find some sense of purpose in their fixed eyes, which were as blue as the Dresden blue porcelain drawer pulls their mother had bought them for a gift after they graduated from pharmacy school in 1944. Once they returned home to Mount Pleasant from the University of Pittsburgh, they established their own business and worked diligently to keep up with the steady flow of Frick Hospital prescriptions and local clientele. It was only imprecision brought on by exhaustion that sent them down into their basement workshop to relax. Like many men in fish and game towns, they practiced taxidermy as a hobby. The twins competed in contests at the Westmoreland County Fair and as far east as the county fairs in York and Lancaster, and north up to Beaver Falls and Erie. It was with great pride that within the pharmacy, they displayed their winning entries in dust-proof glass and oak cases set on top of the tall shelves. In order that their handiwork be viewed more clearly, Ab and Dolph shimmed the back legs of the cases so they tilted downward for everyone to see. There was a set of squirrel pharmacists grinding medications with a mortar and a pestle. There were conjoined pigs dressed in black suits, which they titled Chang and Eng after the famous Siamese twins. Another pair of Siamese twins, kittens this time, were titled the Hilton Sisters after Daisy and Violet Hilton. One kitten wore a blonde wig, the other a brunette, and they were posed in tiny wedding gowns after a scene from the movie poster advertising their biographical film, Chain for Life. In another case, a white mink slept on a little tufted bed, while a black mink hovered above him. Below the scene was written, "I could not love, except where death was mingling his with beauty's breath." E.A. Poe. There were dozens more, many decorated with blue and red prize ribbons, and some with brassy shoulder braids like on an army general. I especially liked the long case that was labeled in gold script across the bottom of the frame, "The Rumbaugh Brood, Fitter Family Contest Winner." In it was a father mink, a mother mink, and a dozen mink children in descending stair-step order, with all of them standing straight up in healthy muscle man poses, except for the mother. She was cradling twin mink babies in her arms. Beneath each mink was a name, but I always skipped over them and read just the twins' names. Adolf and Abner, perfect twins, because it made me smile warmly to think of them as cute little minks. Across the top of the frame was printed, Eugenic Health Exhibit, Westmoreland County Fair, 1921. Hanging from the corner was a gold medal kept in full shine with the image of parents reaching for a plump, smiling child, who in turn was reaching for them. Circling the family were the words, "Yea, I have a goodly heritage." The twins' father, Peter Rumbaugh, who was a mink farmer and taxidermist, had made the display for the Westmoreland chapter of the Eugenics Research Association after the Rumbaughs family was awarded the Fitter Family Medal. He practiced taxidermy on minks from his mink farm, and the twins, before he signed them over for adoption to the Eugenics Research Association, must have watched him. He even made them baby toys of stuffed animals on wheels, also on display. Little minks and squirrels and chickens with metal loops through their noses and beaks, to which leather pull cords were attached. Many years later, he sent the twins the pull toys and family mink exhibit in an attempt to reconcile their ruined relationship, which I will explain later. But no gesture could assuage their feeling that he had betrayed them. Besides, their mother, Mrs. Rumbaughs, with whom the twins lived, steadfastly forbade the mention of his name. As a child, I stood on a step-stool for hours and studied the various displays and creatures, admiring their fixed postures and expressions, the meticulously painted backgrounds, and especially their tiny clothes, which the twins had sewn with the help of their mother. She was good with her hands and made extra money by braiding elaborate mourning jewelry from the long hairs of the dead. Despite their peculiar activities, the twins always presented themselves very earnestly to the world. They wore identical black boiled wool three-piece suits, each with a collarless white shirt, which was fastened at the top with a single copper stud the size of a tack head. They wore the same shirts all week, so that circles of green oxidation edged the white buttonholes where the studs pressed, just below their Adam's apples. On Sundays, they wore the same suits, with freshly laundered and starched collared shirts and black ribbon bow ties. They were thin-necked. Pencil-necked, my mother called them. But because of their age, both had identical wattles of ruddy chicken skin gathered over the collars of their shirts. When they spoke, they pecked at the air as if the words were grains of corn, and their wattles flopped about like deflated balloons. For some inexplicable reason, unknown to me when I was young, I was born deeply in love with the twins. I adored them so much it hurt to see their physical flaws, because I wanted them to be perfect in the way you wish a drawing to appear on paper as precisely as you saw it in your mind. I wished I could have taken a small scissors and snipped off the extra folds of skin and finely sewn the necks back together and smoothed the scars with lanolin. I knew even then it could not have been difficult to do so. On that astonishing Easter morning, my mother and I had worn matching yellow dresses with wide, white patent leather belts pulled tightly round our waists. We wore identical yellow satin headbands, with our black hair pushed back behind our ears and our bangs combed forward to just above our dark eyebrows. She wore red lipstick, and after she kissed me on the lips, we examined ourselves in the mirror, and I was very pleased to see that my lips were red too. Mom and Minnie-Mom, we called ourselves, as we left the Kelly Hotel and walked in our black patent leather shoes down Diamond Street toward the Transfiguration Polish Catholic Church. It was a warm, sunny day, and I was very happy. Easter Mass is always a festive service at TPCC, with potted lilies lining the central aisle at every oak pew. Their white blossoms were pointed toward the altar, where the glowing monstrance stood like a golden lighthouse. The sacred body of Christ beamed out through that glass eye as mysteriously as a holy cyclops. Along the walls, polite arrangements of carnations graced the feet of the apostles and saints. But an early spring garden of vibrant flowers framed the stained-glass window that pictured a trapped coal miner kneeling in prayer before the image of the Virgin Mary. The older ladies in black dresses may have lost husbands, brothers, and sons in the local coal mines, yet they never lost hope that the buried would someday emerge from the ground like Lazarus, a miracle to behold. Once, a coal tunnel dug by mistake under the edge of town caved in. Above it, buildings staggered, then toppled. Trees slipped down holes like vanishing scarves in a magic trick. The older ladies gathered on the banks of the open trench, calling out names, hoping their lost men might be alive, like the French troops who had been trapped in their elaborate tunnels during World War II, only to surface years later, blinking and pale as grubs. After Father Bauman led us in prayer, he pointed out how the trumpet-shaped lily blossoms announce the good news of salvation. Then he transfixed me with the story of how Jesus had been fitted with